Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're all looking forward to this. If you're joining us for the third session, that's great. So happy to see you joining all of the sessions that we have for you. If this is your first session as well, thank you for joining. We hope that all of you like what we have in store for you today. Right, so like I was saying, we have made it to part 3 of this AI in Zoho CRM series. And in the first two parts, the first two parts were all about Gen AI, right? So we looked at how you can leverage the power of Gen AI to improve your overall sales communications. And we also saw how it can help you make your sales reps more productive. We saw how you can use Gen AI to even configure and set up your CRM much more easily. Now, in today's session, we'll be moving into some more core sales features, so to speak. So all the features that we'll be looking at today, such as prediction, anomaly detection, or AI forecasting, all of these are going to help you get really deep insights from your sales data. And this will contribute to your day-to-day decision making, as well as your longer-term strategizing. When I say insights, what exactly do I mean? So we know that your CRM holds a wealth of information about your business, right? There's going to be data about all of your leads and customers. It stores all of their interactions from emails, calls, and meetings. And it also has their engagement from other channels as well, such as maybe your social media, your website, maybe even product usage data. So Zia is going to analyze all of this data for you and start understanding the patterns and trends that exist in that data. And then it can instantly point out any anomalies that exist. So let's say there is a sudden spike in the number of customer tickets or a dip in the number of deals that have been closed in a particular week. It can give you all of that, all of those anomalies. You can also get various kinds of AI scoring done on your records. So for example, which deals are you more likely to win, or which leads have a higher chance of converting, or even which customers look like they're about to leave your business. Zia can assign scores to help you figure out all of these things. Zia can also go beyond just identifying patterns in the data that's there and even predict various aspects of your data. So for instance, let's say it can help you figure out which products your customers may be interested in buying, or the date on which a deal is likely to close. And finally, it can even analyze all of your sales reps' performance and tell you what your sales forecast is likely to look like for the upcoming month or quarter. And the best part of all of this is that you also always get insight into why Zia is choosing certain scores or predictions for your data. And you can measure how accurate those predictions are over time as well. Now, before jumping into the features themselves, let me just quickly take a moment to talk about this aspect, which is the importance of training data. Now, most of the features that we'll be looking at today are going to require a certain amount of training data or base data for Zia to identify patterns, right? So these training records should be split between ideal as well as non-ideal records. So for example, let's say you want Zia to predict the likelihood of a deal closing, right? Then you need to give it at least a minimum of 200 deal records for it to learn from. And within these 200 deal records, you need to ensure that you have a sufficient representation for closed one as well as closed lost deals, right? So you can't give it just 10 closed won deals and 190 closed lost deals. You should have at least 75 of each class and ensure that in total there are also 200. So if you give it 75 closed won deals, then you need to give it 125 closed lost deals, right? So that's how the split between the records and the training data works. So now, basically, when it comes to configuring any of these features, you'll find that it just comes down to this, what I just told you. You need to teach Zia what an ideal record looks like versus a non-ideal record. And Zia is going to use that base data to build a model to classify all future records. So as the data in your CRM grows, it'll also keep retraining the models regularly, and the predictions are likely to become more accurate over time. So let's begin with the features that we have in store for today. And starting with something that is an inherent part of every sales organization, which is sales forecast. Now, when you create a forecast, the first thing you need to do is set targets for every member of the team. These targets are usually based on various factors, right? So this could include both past performance of the company, the past performance of specific users, as well as current factors for the period in question, like maybe any seasonal variations, sales, discounts, festivals that are coming up, or even larger economic factors. So we need to think and take into account a lot of factors when we are building a forecast. Now, instead of doing this exercise manually every single time, you can just use Zia to analyze all of these factors and suggest the best target for each user. Once we set those targets, our next objective is going to be to keep an eye on how well those targets are being achieved. Zia can tell us what each user is likely to achieve based on their past performance, and you will see that in this small yellow field over here. And we also have an anomaly detection component within forecast. So if there is anything unusual going on within your forecast, right, if there are some patterns that are out of the ordinary in any users or teams deal closure pattern, we get information about that on the forecast overview page under this column. We'll be looking at that in a minute in the action demo as well. Finally, another thing that we get within the forecast module is a specific user analysis report. User analysis, or you can do it, look at this report at the role level as well. But basically, you get a whole lot of insights into how that specific user or role has been performing within the purview of that particular forecast, right? So there are a whole lot of analysis numbers, but you'll also see a lot of insights from Zia in this report as well. Starting with this main prediction number, this was the same prediction number that we saw a couple slides ago. But we also have something called the likely to win number, right? So likely to win is going to be a more realistic estimate, which is based on deals that are actually in the pipeline for that period. So it's going to take into account all of the related activity for those deals, like let's say the related emails, the calls, the customer sentiment, and all of that to help it predict which deals are likely to be closed. And it uses all of that to arrive at this likely to win number. And finally, if there happens to be a gap in what the user has achieved so far and their target for that forecast, you'll also see a whole list of qualitative insights over here. Zia is going to give you a lot of reasoning behind why there may be a gap in their achievement, and it also gives you suggestions on what that user can do to actually go ahead and improve their target achievement. So I'll just jump over to my demo. So you'll find all your forecasts under the forecast module. Now I've already created my forecast for the current period over here. I'll just so let's start with forecast creation and setting the predicted targets, right? So I'll just set a sample forecast for the next period, which is going to be September, which takes you to the target creation page. So I'm just showing this so that you can see what it looks like. I don't have enough deals in my pipeline for September yet. But basically, when you're setting targets, you can just click on any text field and you will get this pop-up over here, which gives you an overview of the numbers for that specific user. But you'll also see this little field here called predicted target. And this is where Zia will tell you what an ideal target for that user is going to be for the upcoming period, right? The one that you're creating the forecast for. So if you have enough deals in your pipeline for that period, you will get this number populated over here. And you can even use the quickly set target dropdown to just set the Zia suggested target directly for all of the users in your organization. So I've already done that for the month of August. You'll see the forecast numbers over here. So now next, now that we've looked at forecast creation, I'll just like to draw your attention to this column over here called anomalies. So this column is completely handled by Zia. Whenever Zia notices any unusual pattern in any users or roles deal closure pattern, you're going to get an anomaly figure in this column over here. So if you want to know what exactly the anomaly is, you can just click on the I pop-up over here, and it will tell you what the expected value was, what the actual achievement is, and the magnitude of the deviation, right? So you'll get a complete overview of what is happening and why there's an anomaly being predicted. Obviously, if achievement is more than 100% about the predicted value, that's a very good anomaly to have. But it's also good to be aware that there are things that are happening which are outside the expected norm. So you will see these anomalies are given at the user level as well as the role level, or even for the overall period as a whole. So at various levels, you'll be able to see this these anomalies coming up if there are any. And if you also, so the number that's given here is an anomaly for the current week in question, between last week and this week. You can also click on view previous anomalies to look at any previous deviations that were there for this particular user. Right, so we have looked at a forecast creation, we have looked at anomalies. Now let's go a little deeper and look at the details page for a specific forecast. So this is my overall report for the current quarter. I have, of course, this is all to do with the regular forecast, but you will see Zia giving you a predicted achievement number for each role and user in this field over here. So now let's say I want to dig deeper and look into a specific user's performance. So I'm just going to click on this particular user, which is going to pull up the user's forecast report. So we just saw this in the slide deck as well, right? But this report gives you a complete overview of everything that this user has achieved in this particular period for this particular forecast. So you'll see that there is this trend graph here, which shows us how they've been winning their deals over time. And there's this little part in the graph which also shows us the predicted trend for their future performance over here. So that's this graph. We also have these two numbers over here, which is the number that they're likely to achieve based on past performance, and also the likely to win number. So we saw this in the screenshot. Like I told you, this is you'll get this value if you have actual live data in your CRM, right? You're going to need like a whole lot of activities related to all of your deals. It looks at the customer sentiment, it looks at the various interactions within each deal and all of that to arrive at the likely to win. And this is definitely one of my favorite parts of the user report, where Zia looks at the gap in their achievement, or in this case, they have actually exceeded their achievement, and it gives a bunch of observations on what is happening with this user's target achievement. So in this case, since the user has exceeded expectations, they'll say the Zia says that the user does not need to focus on any new deals, but it also gives us some interesting insight. So let's say that this particular user tends to have a higher win rate on high value deals as opposed to low value deals. So Zia is suggesting that this user continues concentrating on their high value deals. And the best part is it even gives us a direct link to what these deals are, so that I can just jump into that and quickly go to the deal and start working on it. So all of this was focus. Now let's move on to the next feature. Let me just go back to my presentation. So next we're going to look at anomaly detection. Now we have huge volumes of activity happening day in and day out on our CRM, right? So sometimes we may not even realize when something out of the ordinary happens. That's why we have built this anomaly detector component within the CRM dashboard section that helps you identify sudden spikes or dips in any measure that you're interested in. So this could be anything like maybe the number of deals that you're closing weekly or the leads that are being added to your system. Now, there are three basic types of anomaly detection charts that you can create. The first one that you see here is pretty straightforward. We just take a single measure and look at its trend over time. So here you're just looking at the number of deals that are being closed every month. Now, in the second case, you may want to look at a particular measure in relation to some other measure, right? So you may only want to flag an anomaly if there is a dip in relation to some other quantity. So let's say you add many contacts in a particular month, but you don't add enough deals. That means there's going to be some kind of anomaly getting flagged over there. So whenever there's a dip in the relative value of two measures, you will get an anomaly flag over here. And third, you can also break your measure up into categories. So for example, let's say you want to look at leads that are created, right? But you want to break it up by the various lead sources. So you can use grouping to do that, and that will give you a table chart that looks like this. So again, let's jump back to the demo and we'll see how we can configure these three types of anomalies. Anomaly detectors. So to configure an anomaly detector, you'll have to go over to your analytics or dashboard section of your CRM. So let's look at the configuration part first. You can just add a component to any of your existing dashboards, and you will see an option called Anomaly Detector. You can give it a name, which is like something like Yields Anomaly. Okay, so first you have to define what measure you're interested in measuring. So select the module from which this, where you can find the this measure. So I'm looking at the number of leads. So I can just select count of leads. I can also look at something like the sum of annual revenue or the sum of days visited, things like that. So you can choose from here which exact measure you're interested in. I just want to look at the total number of leads. So I will just click on count of leads. Now you will need to select a date field against which to compare it. So you'll see all the date fields available in the module here. I'm going to select the registration date. So I want to look at leads created according to the registration date. Yeah. So I've selected the measure now. Now let's look at some of the other parameters. So I want to create this anomaly detector component for all leads that have been created this year. Also, I want to group the leads according to their registration date every week. So now that I've selected this, it will look at the total number of leads based on every week based on the registration date. Also, if I only want to consider only specific leads from the module, I can use the criteria filter and I can say something like only consider leads with an annual revenue of some value, right? But if I don't want that, I can remove that as well. So this is all you need to create the first basic type of anomaly detector that I just told you about. Now, let's say you want to compare this measure with something else, another related measure. Then you click on compare with another metric. So let's say now, in the example that I told you about, I'm going to be looking at the count of deals. And I can specify the other metric over here. So let's say I want to look at the number of contacts that are created every week. So once again, I just select contacts, count of contacts and created time. Now Zia is going to compare the number of deals created every week against the number of contacts created every week. So this will give us a chart of the second type that we looked at, which is a relative measure between two values. So this is the second type of anomaly detector. And finally, the third type involves grouping these based on a related, based on a category. So now let's say, I'll go back to my leads example. I want to group these according to the lead source. So if I select this, the leads in my leads module will be split according to the lead source, and I'll be able to create the anomaly detector. So this is the one that I have, the component that I have already created. Once you click on save, it will take about maybe 5 to 7 minutes for Zia to analyze the data and create this chart. So you will see here that it has the leads, number of leads have been split by the week as well as by the lead source. So you can either look at a specific week like this, or you can look at a specific lead source, a trend in the specific lead source over time. And it establishes a baseline for every lead source and every week. So if the number of leads created are above the baseline, then you'll see it marked in green. If it's below, you'll see it marked in red. So this is how you can get insights into the anomalies in your CRM data. So now let's go back to our presentation now. So this is a really interesting feature because Zia isn't just analyzing existing data here, but actually predicting a value that doesn't exist yet. This could be a date value in your record, or it could be a revenue number, or even a particular category that it falls in. And Zia also goes a step further by giving us the exact reasons why it's picking a particular prediction. And it even gives us a whole lot of charts and graphs that helps us understand how accurate these predictions are over time. So to create a prediction, you'll first have to go to your settings page, navigate to Zia, and you'll see something called prediction. So under the field prediction section, you can click on new prediction. And okay, once again, I'll give it a name. So in this example, I want to create a prediction for the specific product that a new lead may be interested in. So I'll just call it something like product interested. First, select the module for which you want to build the prediction. So once you select the module, you'll have to select the field that you want to predict. So under this option here, you will see all numerical, date, as well as pick list values available in this field over here. So let's say I want to predict the annual revenue from a lead or a contact, whatever. You'll see that then beyond this, I don't have any other criteria to specify. I can directly just go over to telling Zia which records it should use for learning. However, in this case, I wanted to predict the specific product that a lead might be interested in. Now, this happens to be a pick list field. So now I need a little more, a few more details to configure this prediction builder. So I need to specify which particular values in that pick list I want Zia to predict. So you'll see here that there's something called which option do you want Zia to predict and something called negative values. So I'll just quickly explain what that is. So let's, for example, select lead status. So under lead status, I have all of these values. However, I'm only interested in predicting which lead is likely to reach a contacted state. Right? So now I also have the option of selecting values that are negative, in the sense junk lead or loss lead are values that are not ideal to me. So I will specify that under this. So the reason why we do this is it helps Zia identify which the ideal records are and which the non-ideal are. And it will help generate some useful analytics and graphs to help us figure out how many leads are reaching a positive state and how many leads are reaching a negative state. So now I'll just go back to my product line interested field. So if I want to predict the product that a lead is interested in, I don't have any specific preference. I'm interested in predicting all of these fields. So I will select everything over here under this option and I will leave this empty. So that's about it. Now, if I want Zia to use only specific records for learning uh, the specific data for this prediction, then I can choose the filters over here. So maybe I can say consider only those leads with a status of contacted or pre-qualified. In that case, it will look at only these records to learn and create its training models. If I don't want this, I can just say none, and then Zia will use all of the records in the selected module. Now, one more thing. So like I told you, we need a specific amount of base data for each field, right? So in this case, I have 4 values in this big list field. So Zia will require at least 75 records which have each of these values. So since I have 4 values, it needs 300, a minimum of 300 records with 75 for each big list value that is there, that which I'm interested in predicting. So I've already configured this. So once you hit save, it will take about maybe half a day to maximum of 1 day to create the model. So this is the model that has already been created. It will also tell you, give you a model accuracy. So since I've used randomized data, it has a fairly low accuracy over here. But as data grows over time, Zia will retrain the model every 2 weeks, and the accuracy should increase over time. So now, quickly, let's look at how this prediction looks in the actual module. So I'll go over to my leads module. So this is a sample lead that I created. And it has made a prediction of the Formico product line for this particular lead. And if I want to know why it has made that prediction, I can click on learn more and get a list of the factors. We can even create a lead. So back in the configuration page, you would see that you may have noticed. Actually, let's go back to that. So you will see that once Zia learned from the data, it realized that these are the fields that affect the final prediction, right? So it has used these fields to make the prediction for each record. So that would be status, industry, revenue, and lead source. So let's just create a quick sample lead. So we don't know the product line interested yet for this lead. So let's select a quick status for this lead: status, industry, lead source, and annual revenue. Okay, so I'll hit save. Now it will take maybe a minute or two for Zia to make a prediction. So maybe we can just wait for a minute. Right, so we have a prediction already. It has made a prediction of Formico again for this lead as well, with a probability score of 27. So since the model accuracy is low, we don't have very accurate predictions yet, but this is definitely going to improve over time. So as I told you, for all of the predictions that we build, we can also get analytics to tell us how accurate these predictions are performing over time. So it takes into account a lot of factors. It also looks at, as predictions are made, you are also going to update the actual value for each lead, right? So Zia will then compare whether the predictions made were right or not, and then it will give you a whole lot of charts to explain how accurately it's been making its predictions. So I don't have the exact charts here because again, we need real-time live data for this. So I'll just show you screenshots of what these analytics are likely to look. So first up, Zia is going to give you an overall split between the number of predictions that it has made for each value. And also you'll see these uptrend and downtrend numbers for each value. So you see that there are 24 records that are likely to be classified as closed ones soon. And in this case, there are 2 records which are going to move away from the closed or lost value. So what this means is basically predictions are obviously not going to be static. As Zia gets more information over time, it will also update the predictions for each record, right? So you see these uptrend and downtrend numbers to get an idea of how many are moving towards or away from a specific prediction. And again, there's also the overall accuracy level for the model that it has created. So this number gives you Zia's own confidence level in the model that it has built. And this graph here shows how this particular confidence level is increasing or decreasing over time. Now, as you start updating actual values in the records, Zia will start understanding how many of its predictions were right and how many were wrong. And it gives you an overall split in this chart over here. Next, we also have some user level charts. So first up, we have the win-loss analysis, which gives us the split between successful and failed predictions for each value that it is predicting. Right. So for you'll see that for health insurance deals that have been won, Zia has made predictions for 209 of the records, of which 17% were successful predictions. So for these successful predictions, you will see which factors were the most influential. So these are fields from the records. You'll see which of the factors were most influential in making these predictions. And also right below this, you would see a user chart. So this gives you the same data split according to each user in the system. Now we also have a table which shows us the users with the most number of failed predictions. Now, why do we have something like this, right? This is just to give us an idea on whether CRM users are taking the right approach towards their records. So suppose we have 200 predictions made in total by Zia, but a whole 180 of them are concentrated towards one particular user. So then maybe we can conclude that the prediction as such is maybe all right. It's just that the particular user is not leveraging or making use of the prediction feature well enough. So this is just to give us an idea of the user level split in this case. And finally, we also have segmentation analysis, where Zia splits the records into groups or segments based on distinct sets of contributing factors. And it gives us the success and failure rates for each segment as well. Again, we can take a look at which segments have high success rates and get a better understanding of our data this way. So these are all the analytics that we get for our prediction builder. Now, just a quick mention, all these charts, the prediction analytics charts, are available only to users, organizations with 20 or more users. Now, all of the other features that we are looking at today are available to all users in all regions, but the prediction analytics alone would require a minimum of 20 users in the organization. The next feature that we are going to be looking at are the Zia scoring rules. So I'm sure most of us may have already made use of the regular scoring rules feature, right? These scoring rules are where we manually tell our CRM to increase the score for a record if it meets certain conditions, or decrease the score if it meets certain other conditions, right? So those are the manual scoring rules, but we also have a set of AI-based scoring rules as well with Zia. So in this case, scores are going to be automatically assigned to your records based on various factors. So overall, we provide 5 types of Zia scores. So I'll just quickly run through what each score does, right? So first up, we have the health score. This is going to be a kind of all-in-one score for that record. So it takes into account all of the activity related to that record. So this could include all of their emails, all of their calls, maybe all the tickets that the customer is raising, the campaigns that they're engaging with, so on and so forth. It takes all of this into account and creates an overall health score for the record. Now, we also have something called the engagement score, which measures all types of incoming interactions or responses from a customer. For example, it looks at whether they're responding to our calls, whether they're opening or clicking our emails, or maybe even whether they're interacting with us on social media. Yeah. So it looks at all of these incoming interactions. Whereas on the other hand, we have the follow-up score, which measures the overall level of outbound activity towards a prospect. So it looks at things like whether your sales reps are calling your leads on time. It looks at whether they're sending them follow-up emails as according to an appropriate cadence, or whether they're arranging follow-up meetings on time, all of these things. So all of that is consolidated within the follow-up score. We also have the conversion score, which basically looks at how likely a record is to reach some sort of positive outcome, right? So simply put, how likely a deal is likely to become closed one, or how likely a lead is to be converted into a contact. So a conversion score takes stock of something like this. And finally, we also have the field attribute score, which simply assesses the completeness and quality of data in a record based on all of the fields that have been filled up for that particular. Yeah. So for all of these scores, you need to basically define what an ideal and non-ideal record looks like, so that Zia can use that to improve its models. However, it's not completely mandatory for these 3 particular types of scores, simply because they're largely based on the customer interactions, like I just told you, and all of the activity on the record, such as the emails sent, the calls made, things like that. So Zia has its own inbuilt algorithm to analyze these kinds of activities. So you don't necessarily need to mention training data in these cases. However, you do need it for these 2 types of records. So I'll again just show you what that looks like in my demo. So to build a scoring rule, you'll have to go over to the settings page. You'll find the scoring rules page under the automation section. So this is where you'll see all of the scoring rules that I've already created. Let's just look at how you can create a new one. So you will have to first, you'll obviously have to give it a name. I'll have to specify that this is a Zia score. Select the module for which I want to build the score for, and of course, the layout. Once you do that, you will enter the score configuration page. So over here, you'll need to choose one out of the 5 types of scores that I told you about. So for the DS module, I've already created a conversion as well as a field attribute score. So you don't see that over here. So you can only create one of each type of score for this module. So you need to select that over here. Like I told you, if it's any of these 3 types, you don't necessarily have to mention any of these, but it's always good to have, because the more data Zia has to learn from, the better. So what you need to do is you need to specify what an ideal record looks like versus a non-ideal record, right? So the good thing here is that you can provide Zia conditions based on criteria within the deals module itself, as well as criteria from related modules to the deals module. So let's say contacts or accounts, things like that. So I just need to specify, okay, look at all of the deals that have reached a closed one state. So this is my most ideal condition for the deals record, as opposed to maybe something that is closed lost or closed lost to competition, any of these things here, right? So if I want, I can also specify conditions from related modules as well. So things like this. So I can provide conditions based on any of the related modules as well. So I've already configured a Zia score for this module. So we'll just go into that. So over here, I've created a field attributes score. And again, I've specified ideal records to be those that are closed won and non-ideal to be those that are closed lost. So once it has completed training on this data, you'll be able to see something known as the model insight by clicking on this field over on this menu over here. So it will tell you whether the model creation is still in progress or whether it has been created successfully. In this case, it's been created successfully. And I can also easily navigate to all of the records for which it has built a score. So if I click on this number, I'm taken to the records. So maybe if I just go into a particular record, I can see that the score is populated over here. So it's given a great score for this record. If I click on the scorecard, it gives me all of the reasons that have contributed to giving this record this score. So we just have one more feature to look at. So the final feature that we are looking at today is going to be churn prediction. So actually, this is also a type of scoring because Zia is going to analyze how likely a customer is to leave your business and assigns them a score out of 100. And the higher the score, the more likely they are to leave. Just that this score is slightly different from the scores that we saw in the previous slide, in that the configuration part is going to be slightly different. So we'll just see what I mean by that. So if you want to build a churn prediction score for any of your modules, you need to go back to the prediction section under Zia. So we already looked at field prediction, but you see that we also have a section called churn prediction as well. So if you want to build a churn prediction, you just need to select the module. So when it comes to churn prediction, you need to tell Zia two pieces of information. You need to tell it where you store your customer information as well as where you store your payment information. Yeah, because it's going to correlate your customer information with the payments that they're making to understand whether the payments are coming in continuously or whether those payments are drying up. So in that case, it marks that customer as someone who is more likely to leave your business. So you can choose anything over here, right? Based on how your CRM is set up, you can either go for invoices or quotes, sales order, whatever you have in your CRM. I'm just going to choose my deals module where I store my payment information as. Yeah. So you also need to specify which field holds the payment date for that particular module as well. So if it's the deals module, I'm going to say that the closing date is considered as the date on which the payment is made. So again, over here, you need to specify what a successful payment looks like. So again, I say that when a deal reaches the closed won state, that means that a payment has been made, as opposed to the customer churn. So let's say now, if I haven't created a deal for this particular account in over a month or two, then I want to identify this as a churn customer. So let's say now that I choose closing date. So if the most recent deal for this particular account has been created more than 30 or 60 days ago, then I want to consider this as someone who's leaving my business, right? So you can specify conditions based on how your CRM is set up. That's completely up to you. This is just an example. So I have set up my churn score like this. So again, if you go into the score that I've already built, you will see that this is the way that I've configured it. And Zia has assigned it a score of high accuracy. So if I go over to my my accounts module now, I will be seeing a churn score for each account. So if you just quickly go over to the accounts module, I can just go into any particular account and I will see the churn score over here. I had even created a churn score for the contacts module. So let's say Maureen Simmons. So in any module that you create a churn prediction for, okay, we need to change the view over here. Any module that you create a churn prediction for, you will be able to see that under a section called churn prediction over here. So this customer has a very low score, which means that they are very likely to continue staying with our business. So this is an ideal case for us. So if you click on know more, you will get a whole list of factors on into why Zia has assigned this score, right? So why does this customer have this score that we have assigned it? So you'll get a scorecard over here. So that's pretty much it to do with the features that we have today. Just one important note that I would like to close on. So we have seen how Zia gives you a whole lot of insight, right? Based on all of your sales data. But the thing is, insight needs to be actionable. So we need to know how we can actually take action using all of these insights and predictions and scores that Zia is giving us. So you need to just look at all of these scores and predictions as fields that Zia is creating for each record. So based on that, you can just go ahead and create a workflow automation based on the score, or you can even create a report and add the churn score to it so that you can understand the different categories that your users are falling into, your customers are falling into. And you can also just simply search through your records using filters. You can see if you've built prediction or if you built the churn score or any kind of score for your records, you will find that added to filters so that you can just quickly search through your records and you can create custom views based on this as well. So yeah, that's about it for today's session.